Have you ever been there, where you give your all, your heart, your feelings, even parts of yourself, just to keep someone close? You think, maybe if I love harder, care more, be softer, they'll finally choose me. But they don't. They still walk away. And you're left with that quiet ache, asking yourself, why am I still not enough? Because from the beginning, you were told love was something you had to earn, that you had to become someone else to belong, that your worth depended on someone else's choice to love you. But Carl Jung taught something radically different. He believed that, when you don't recognize your own worth, you keep finding yourself in relationships that make you feel worthless. You keep chasing from others what you've never learned to give yourself, love. True self-love isn't about affirmations. It's about setting boundaries. It's about walking away from what doesn't honor you. It's about standing strong in solitude and still feeling whole. And it's only when you reach that place, that deep, quiet confidence, that the right person arrives, not to complete you, but to walk beside you, because you no longer need someone to fill your emptiness. In today's video, we're going to uncover why, when you finally love yourself fully, you attract a completely different kind of love. Stay with me till the end. Because the love you've been searching for might not be found in someone else's eyes, but in the quiet awakening already rising within you. Number 1. Love that comes from need isn't really love. You might think you're looking for love, but often, you're actually looking for something to numb the pain you've never fully faced. You say you want a deep, secure connection, someone who truly sees and values you. But take a closer look. How many times have you ended up in relationships that made you feel small, anxious, or constantly walking on eggshells? How often have you found yourself completely dependent on how someone else feels or acts? And how many times have you quietly wondered, why do I always attract the same kind of people? Why am I always the one who ends up loving more? And how many times, after each heartbreak, did you promise yourself it would be different next time, only to find yourself stuck in the same painful pattern again? That's not bad luck. That's an unconscious wound, repeating itself on loop, until you finally become aware enough to confront it. Carl Jung once said, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Not at the surface level, but deep in the layers of your subconscious, where old fears, buried pain, and limiting beliefs still run the show, quietly pulling the strings behind your choices. Think of it this way: a woman who always ends up with cold, emotionally unavailable men. Each time it ends, she tells herself, next time, I'll choose someone warmer, kinder. But next time she ends up with the same kind of person, just a different face, a different name. Why? Because she still hasn't turned inward. She hasn't spent time understanding herself. Deep within, she holds an unspoken belief: I'm not truly worthy of love. I have to earn it. I have to prove myself. And that belief quietly draws her to people who make her feel exactly that love is something she has to fight for. This is the painful trap of an unawakened mind. You believe you're falling in love, but you're just repeating the same old story, with different characters playing the same roles. You call it love, but really, it's emotional dependency wearing a mask. Love that comes from a place of emptiness isn't really love. It's emotional negotiation. You give love, but only to silence the ache inside. To fill the void, to escape the fear of being alone, to feel needed. You don't love because you feel whole. You love because you haven't yet learned to love yourself. And that's why that kind of love never lasts. Can't be healthy, because it's not rooted in freedom. It's rooted in need. And anything born out of need will always carry the weight of dependency. So ask yourself honestly, when you love someone, do you start to lose yourself? Do you become overly sensitive, more anxious, more reactive when they don't respond the way you hoped? That's because what you're feeling isn't real love. It's attachment to the belief that they will somehow fix you. And that's where the pain begins. If any part of this speaks to you, drop a comment and let me know, because you're not alone. Carl Jung called this identification with the wound. It happens when you haven't separated who you truly are from the part of you that's been hurt. Instead of healing that pain, you start looking for someone else to carry it for you, to love you so completely, you forget your own insecurities. But the truth is, no one can do that for you. And so the cycle continues: disappointment, heartache, unmet expectations, and the same pattern, all over again. Love that's born out of need is like building a home on shifting sand. It might look steady for a while, but one strong wave and it all comes crashing down. Why? Because it's not rooted in a solid inner foundation. It depends entirely on what the other person says, does, or feels. You hand over your emotional security, letting them hold the keys to your peace. If they leave, you break. If they stay, you breathe easy for now. But that's not love. That's emotional dependency. And no matter how beautiful it seems, that kind of love is always a delicate illusion, one that can vanish the moment reality sets in. Until you find the courage to face your pain head on, you'll keep going in circles, chasing someone to love you the right way, instead of learning how to give that love to yourself. Picture a man fresh out of a breakup. Instead of sitting with the pain, understanding it, letting it teach him something, he dives headfirst into dating apps, swiping, chatting, grasping for anyone who can make him feel wanted again. He tells himself he's ready for new love, but deep down, he's just avoiding himself. And who does he attract? Others who are running too. When do people come together from a place of emptiness? When they rush into connection, driven by fear instead of calm, that love can't hold. And once again, he feels let down, abandoned, convinced that love always comes with pain. But here's what he doesn't realize. The energy he carries is shaping the love he calls in. If what lives inside you is anxiety, fear, and a craving to feel enough, then that's exactly the kind of connection you'll keep attracting. People who reflect those same wounds back to you. Real change doesn't begin out there. It begins within. Acknowledge the old fear. Bring it into the light. And instead of searching for someone to patch the emptiness, start asking yourself, why do I feel like I'm not enough? Where did that story begin? Is it even true? Because here's the reality. No one can love you enough to make you feel whole. That kind of fix doesn't exist. The real shift happens when you stop using love as a crutch and start standing tall on your own. It may sound uncomfortable, but it's a truth most people spend their lives avoiding, because real love is not an addiction. So often, we confuse emotional hunger with love. When you're starving, you'll take whatever you can get, but that doesn't mean it's good for you or truly fulfilling. Love that comes from need is where we begin to betray ourselves. It's where we hand over the power to feel worthy and place it in someone else's hands. And here's the even harder truth to accept. It's not just that we love the wrong way, we also see the wrong people, because what we often call love is just a mirror, reflecting our own wounds through the shadow of someone else. Number 2. Understanding projection in relationships. Carl Jung once said, the best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. To Jung, love wasn't just an emotion, it was a mirror, one that reflects your inner world with stunning accuracy. You don't fall for someone just because of who they are. You're drawn to them because they stir something inside you, something you haven't yet faced. We like to believe that the people we meet just happen by chance. A classmate, a colleague, a friend of a friend, a stranger on the street, or a swipe on a screen. But what if none of it is random? But no, these life-altering encounters don't follow logic. They're not part of some calculated plan, and they certainly don't rely on algorithms or control. In Jung's view, nothing is random, especially not the people we meet. Every person who crosses your path is answering a silent call from your inner world. According to Carl Jung, we aren't just driven by the conscious mind, the part you think with, plan with, control. We're also deeply influenced by something far older, the collective unconscious, a hidden realm shaped by instincts, symbols, and timeless archetypes. These ancient patterns show up as rituals, symbols, and deep-rooted images that date back to humanity's earliest days, often buried beneath our conscious awareness. We can't see these archetypes with the rational mind, but we feel their power deeply. And when it comes to love, two of the most influential archetypes are the anima and animus. The anima is the hidden feminine energy within a man's psyche, a symbol of softness, emotion, intuition, and nurturing. The animus is the unconscious masculine force within a woman, representing strength, action, logic, and inner ideals. Every human being, regardless of gender, carries within them an unconscious, idealized image of the opposite. This image is shaped by deep archetypal forces. So when you meet someone who mirrors that inner image, it's not just attraction you feel, it's something far more powerful. It feels fated, as if the universe itself aligned your paths, as if they were sent to complete something inside you. There's a sense of inevitability, like an invisible thread is pulling two lives from different worlds toward one shared moment. Jung believed that some bonds are formed long before life ever gives them a name. This isn't just poetic language, it's a psychological insight into the unconscious. Beneath the surface of what seems like coincidence, something far deeper is always unfolding. Nothing truly happens by accident, because in this light, chance isn't random, it's a language. What we often call fate might actually be the unconscious mind interacting with the outer world in symbolic ways. The people you meet, the connections you form, they don't arrive to satisfy you, they show up to reflect you. And here's the key, you don't need to understand what energy you're putting out. Your unconscious is already speaking for you. Those buried longings for love, the quiet doubts about your own worth, the beliefs you inherited in childhood and never thought to question, they're all silently radiating energy. And because of that, every person who enters your life comes with a message, not just to pass through, but to mirror something deep within you. Like a hidden door swinging open in the middle of an ordinary moment, They arrive and awaken a part of you that's been quietly sleeping. Maybe you meet someone who seems distant, detached, someone who wounds you by making you feel invisible or abandoned. But if you're willing to look closely, honestly, you'll realize that the pain they triggered didn't begin with them. It's something that's been living inside you, that part of you that's always searched for love to feel whole. And if you see even a small reflection of yourself in this right now, pause. Leave a symbol in the comments, something simple, something real, to remind yourself and others that you're not walking this path alone. Because this is how the shadow begins to meet the light, not through textbooks or theories, but through real people, real feelings, and real wounds. And that's exactly why, even in their pain, these encounters matter. Here's the truth. You never meet someone by accident. You meet the exact person your soul needs for its next lesson. The one who hurts you. They show up to reflect your unhealed pain. The one who shakes you to your core. They expose the false beliefs you still carry. And the one who makes you feel most like you. They come as a reminder that being yourself is not only enough, it's your right. But here's where it gets tricky. We don't actually fall in love with them. We fall in love with the image our mind projects onto them. We love who we think they are, not necessarily who they truly are. When love is rooted in projection, it's not real, it's an illusion. And when that illusion fades, we're left feeling hurt, confused, even betrayed. But instead of pausing to reflect inward, we rush to find someone new, someone else to project our hopes onto. And the cycle repeats itself. But projection is only the surface layer. What truly keeps us stuck in unhealthy relationships is something deeper, the unconscious energy we carry within us. An energy of lack. The energy of lack, you may never speak it aloud. You may keep your emotions carefully hidden, but energy has its own language, and it never lies. People can feel it, that quiet desperation for love. They sense when you haven't yet learned how to love yourself, not because you say it, but through the way your eyes linger a little too long, the way you wait anxiously for a reply, the silence you carry filled with unease, or how hard you try just to feel seen. Carl Jung once said, "What you're unaware of doesn't obey you, it rules you." And it's that energy of lack, that quiet, invisible hunger, that slowly drains the warmth from love, no matter how much effort you pour in. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you felt anxious or overwhelmed just because someone didn't reply for a few hours? How often have you checked their stories, scrolled their updates, trying to read between the lines, wondering what they're thinking, where they are, or who they might be with? And how many times have you smiled and said, "I'm fine," while inside, you were crashing, just waiting for them to do something that would make you feel safe again? That feeling, that's the energy of need. And it's not just draining you, it's the very thing that causes others to slowly pull away. In psychology, it's known as attachment anxiety, a pattern rooted in fear and insecurity. But in Jung's terms, it's something deeper, an unintegrated shadow. When you rely on love to feel worthy, you're unconsciously giving your power away. You're not truly loving, you're seeking permission to feel enough. People don't step back because you're not beautiful enough, not interesting enough, not good enough. They begin to pull away because they can feel the invisible weight you place on them, the pressure to make you feel safe, complete, and worthy. No one can carry that burden forever. So, they step back. And once again, you feel abandoned. Once again, you think, maybe I'm not enough. And the same painful cycle begins all over again. Carl Jung once said, "Where there is desire, there is bondage." But this desire isn't about physical attraction. It's the deep, aching need for someone else to fill the emptiness inside you. And that energy, the energy of need, is completely different from the natural desire to connect. Desire is born from wholeness. I want you in my life, but I'm still complete without you. Need, on the other hand, comes from emptiness. If you're not here, I don't even know who I am. This is the crucial difference between genuine love and love driven by fear and obsession. The tricky part, this energy is hard to detect within yourself. It runs deep, hidden in the unconscious, like a silent undercurrent. You think it's love, but beneath the surface, it's fear. And that fear shapes your behavior in ways you don't even realize, pushing others away without meaning to. You start overanalyzing. You get upset over small things. You seek constant reassurance. These are all expressions of the energy of need, an energy that silently pushes love away, even when all you want is to draw it closer. Carl Jung saw this clearly. He likened the unconscious mind to an iceberg. The small tip above the water is your conscious awareness, but beneath it lies a vast, unseen world, a deep ocean of memories, unresolved pain, buried fears, and most significantly, the projections we cast onto others. Consider how fear quietly seeps into your life. It rarely announces itself. Instead, it shows up as self-doubt. When you start wondering if you're even worthy of loving someone else, it hides behind procrastination. When you put off what you truly want, not because you're lazy, but because you're afraid to fail. It shows up in relationships, where you give endlessly, not out of love, but to escape loneliness or the haunting thought that maybe no one truly needs you. But look closely. The people who effortlessly attract others aren't doing anything special to get attention. They're simply not trying to earn it. They're just being themselves. Calm, centered, at peace within. They don't carry the energy of desperation or anxiety. And that stillness, that grounded energy, is what makes them magnetic. No games, no force, just a quiet confidence in their own presence. The truth is, real love isn't scared of your imperfections, but it does run from the energy of desperation. And desperation doesn't always speak aloud. It's there in the way you wait endlessly, forgive too easily, give too much, and stay silent about your own needs, just because you're afraid they might walk away. So if you find yourself in a relationship where the other person seems to be drifting, pause. Before pointing fingers, ask yourself, what kind of energy am I bringing? Am I loving from a place of freedom, or from a need to be saved? Am I rooted in calm, or caught in silent panic? Am I truly opening my heart, or just holding on for dear life? The hard truth is, people feel everything, not always consciously, but instinctively, and human instinct naturally pulls away from invisible pressure. Even if someone genuinely loves you, if your energy makes them feel cornered, or responsible for your happiness, they'll start to retreat, because they need space to breathe, to be who they are. Keeping love isn't about trying harder, it's about needing less. When you stop loving from a place of emptiness, and begin loving from a place of wholeness, you shift your energy completely. You become someone who is rooted in themselves, who doesn't need rescuing, who doesn't seek constant approval, just fully present, with an open heart and steady spirit. But being fully present like that, it takes more than just changing your behavior. It calls for something deeper, a return to your true self. Individuation, the key to true love. Carl Jung called it individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming fully yourself, not a reflection of others, not shaped by wounds, roles, or expectations, but you, whole, authentic, and free. Jung believed this was the most important journey a human being can take, to no longer be driven by past pain, or the need to fit into someone else's mold, but to live from your own center. And it's this inner path, not anything, or anyone outside you, that unlocks real love. Not love rooted in lack, but love that flows from freedom. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why do I keep falling for people who can't love me the way I truly deserve, then try to fix them, hoping they'll somehow fill this emptiness inside? Carl Jung answered this in a way that goes far beyond logic. He spoke in the language of the soul, a soul divided within itself. When you haven't walked the path of individuation, when self-love still feels foreign, when you're disconnected from your most authentic self, you'll unconsciously search for others to complete what you've avoided facing within. But individuation isn't about becoming some ultra-independent version of yourself. It's not about isolating, doing everything alone, or pretending you need no one. Individuation is the journey of beginning to see yourself clearly, to recognize what you're carrying, to uncover the wounds silently shaping your thoughts, your choices, your relationships, and to accept and integrate every part of you, so that you no longer react from your pain, but respond from wholeness. That's when you become conscious. That's when you become truly free. Picture a woman who constantly fears being abandoned, not because someone hurt her physically, but because, as a child, her parents were emotionally absent. They didn't see her, didn't hear her, and in that silence, she learned to question her worth. She never learned to love herself, because that love never came from where it should have. So instead of growing self-worth, she grew self-doubt, and that feeling of not being enough became her lens through life. She grew up believing that in order to be loved, she had to stay agreeable, never cause trouble, never ask for too much. And as an adult, she carries that same pattern into her relationships. She's always the one who gives more, the one who compromises, the one who swallows her pain just to keep the peace. She tells herself, if I'm good enough, they won't leave. But they still leave. Not because she's unworthy of love, but because everything she says, everything she does, is wrapped in the silent energy of someone who has never truly loved herself. She's not loving from freedom, she's loving from fear. Not from her whole, radiant self, but from a version of herself she molded to be accepted. And that love, no matter how sincere, feels heavy, because it doesn't come from truth, it comes from survival. She's living through a temporary version of herself, an ego built not from authenticity, but from survival, forged in an environment where emotional nourishment was scarce. And when that wounded ego tries to love, it can only offer a distorted version of love, a love based on dependency, not true connection. It becomes a silent transaction. I'll give, just don't leave. Carl Jung once said, no one can see outward who has not looked inward. In other words, you cannot truly love another if you haven't first met yourself. If you don't know who you are, don't understand your own needs, and haven't made peace with the parts of yourself you've long kept hidden. Individuation is that sacred journey, the path of embracing your whole self, your light and your shadow, your weakness and your strength, your pain and your potential. And when you begin this inner work, you start to love not because you need someone to make you feel whole, but because you already are whole, and you want to connect from that place of inner fullness. The irony is, many people believe they've grown up, that they're free, independent, emotionally mature, but inside, they're still children, carrying unmet needs and unhealed wounds, hiding beneath adult appearances. They enter love with a silent hope that someone will finally see them, fully understand them, love them unconditionally, and somehow heal all the pain they've never spoken aloud. But every time we love from lack, we bring those hidden wounds with us, and unknowingly place them on the shoulders of the other person. And no matter how much they care, eventually, that weight becomes too much to carry. Individuation is not an easy path. It's painful, because it asks you to confront everything you've spent your life trying to avoid. The emptiness, the loneliness, the fear. You can no longer point fingers, no longer blame others for your pain, no longer hide behind the identity of being love's victim. Instead, you're called to take radical responsibility for your choices, your patterns, your healing. To find the courage to peel back every mask, every defense mechanism, and finally face what lies beneath. Every story you've told yourself, every illusion you've clung to, must be stripped away, so you can return to what's real, the raw, unfiltered, unconditional you. And once you make peace with that self, once you learn to embrace your imperfections instead of hiding them, you realize that true love was never about merging or completing one another. Real love begins when two whole, individuated souls, both at peace within themselves, choose to walk side by side, not to fill a void, but to magnify each other's light. And when love comes from that place, it's no longer rooted in fear. You no longer cling to someone just to feel worthy, because your worth is no longer borrowed, it's already yours. You no longer need to control, to demand, to ask them to constantly prove their love just so you can feel secure, because that sense of safety, you've already built it within yourself. If any part of this message speaks to you, drop a comment, a symbol, or simply write, "I'm on this journey, too." Your words might quietly comfort someone else, someone still finding their way through the dark. And maybe, just maybe, you'll realize you're not as alone as you thought. In a world where so many love from fear, from unhealed wounds, from impossible expectations, choosing individuation is a radical act, a quiet rebellion, a return to self, and the beginning of real love. It doesn't just transform how you love, it shifts the entire energy you radiate. And that energy, not your looks, your words, or your effort, is what shapes the kind of people you attract, and the kind of love you're able to sustain. Individuation isn't a destination. There's no finish line. It's a lifelong unfolding, a series of quiet encounters with yourself, in solitude, in stillness, in moments of inner storm. And with each step inward, you begin to outgrow the relationships that were built on emotional dependency, that fed on your wounds rather than honored your wholeness. The love you begin to draw in now will not pull you away from yourself. It will lead you closer, closer to who you really are, closer to the essence of love itself, a freedom, a return to self, a kind of love that doesn't consume you, but expands you, a relationship that doesn't drain your spirit, but helps you grow. The journey of transformation, from chaser to attractor. Number 5, the shift from chasing love to naturally attracting it. Because here's the truth, no one can truly love you if you haven't learned to love yourself. No one can make you feel whole if deep down, you still believe you're not worthy. And no relationship, no matter how magical, can fill a void you've never dared to face. That's why this transformation doesn't begin with anyone else. It begins within you. Carl Jung didn't offer comfort for the sake of comfort. He didn't sugarcoat the healing process, or wrap psychology in soft words. He was the one who led you straight into the center of your pain, and asked you to stay there, to face your darkness without flinching, and to discover real light through it. If you truly want to heal from the energy of dependency, you'll have to do what most people avoid. Sit with yourself, alone, awake, no distractions, no running. Step by step, you'll learn to return to your own center, to find home within. And to help you begin, here's a simple but powerful psychological exercise designed to nurture self-love. If you feel ready, really ready, drop a comment below. I'm ready to change. So we can take this first step together. The first exercise begins with self-reflection on your current or past relationships. Ask yourself, what is this relationship showing me about myself? Am I always the one initiating? The one who sends the first message? The one who says sorry first? The one who compromises just to avoid another argument? Go deeper. Where, in this connection, am I being neglected? Maybe you've stopped setting boundaries, because deep down, you're afraid they'll leave. Maybe you feel lonely even while in the relationship, because somewhere along the way, you stopped sharing your truth. You stopped expressing how you really feel. And now, you're not just disconnected from them, you're disconnected from yourself. These are clear signs that you've been abandoning yourself in the name of love. And starting today, I want you to make a quiet but powerful commitment to come back to yourself. Pause every action that's driven by the need to be loved, validated, or reassured. That means, don't send that check-in text, even if you miss them, even if you're worried they might be upset, even if you're craving proof that they still care. You don't need to check. You need to trust. Trust that if someone truly values you, if the connection is real, they'll reach out, not because you reminded them, but because they want to. You don't need a reply to feel worthy. You don't need your name glowing on a screen to know you're lovable, because your worth isn't up for debate. It's already within you. Your value has nothing to do with someone else's response. It lives in the quiet promise you make to yourself, to honor your worth, no matter who sees it. The second exercise, practice intentional solitude. Being alone doesn't mean sinking into passive loneliness, scrolling endlessly waiting for someone to rescue you from the emptiness. This is something different. This is deliberate stillness, choosing silence over distraction, choosing space so you can finally hear your own voice again. Here's how to begin. Step 1. Start journaling your emotions daily. Each morning or before bed, write freely, no filters. Let it all out. The confusion, the pain, the anger, the hope, the excitement. Whatever is there, put it on the page. Not to fix it but to face it. Your writing doesn't need to be eloquent or polished. It just needs to be honest. Because writing has a way of untangling what the unconscious keeps hidden. It brings light to the places where emotional darkness lingers. Next step, face your loneliness, without running from it. Instead of numbing the void with movies, social media, food, or casual texting, just sit, really sit, still, quiet, present. Let the emptiness rise. Feel it move through your chest, your stomach, and the invisible space surrounding you. And don't rush to escape it. Instead, ask it gently, where did you come from? What are you trying to tell me? In that sacred silence, you'll begin to hear what you've spent a lifetime trying to drown out. What you'll begin to hear is your heart's voice. Old memories, outdated beliefs, unhealed wounds. But these aren't enemies. They're messengers. They're the map, guiding you back home to yourself. The third exercise, nurture your inner world. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your time has been spent trying to be loved by others? How much of your energy has gone into becoming someone else's ideal? Now it's time to reclaim that energy and redirect it back to you, not through surface-level self-care or distractions, but by building a solid inner foundation. Start by honoring your body. Treat it not as a project to fix, but as your most sacred temple, a living vessel that holds your spirit, the vessel holding every emotional wound. A balanced diet, enough sleep, daily movement. These aren't just lifestyle habits, they're anchors. They don't just make you healthier, they calm the chaos within. They reduce the unconscious stress that makes you chase love out of desperation. Because when you feel clearer in your body, you make clearer emotional decisions. Embrace creativity. Write, draw, play music, design, cook. Do anything that makes you feel alive, that reminds you, you are not just surviving, you're creating. Creative expression is one of the most powerful ways to heal a fractured self, because in creation, you awaken something no one else can give you, an intrinsic value that only you can bring into the world. And here's something deeply important. Reconnect with yourself. Carve out moments each day for the little things that make you feel truly alive. Maybe it's a quiet walk under the setting sun, reading a chapter from a book that brings you closer to your own truth, or simply brewing a warm cup of tea and savoring it slowly. These acts may seem small, but they're not. They're powerful declarations. I choose to be here with myself. I no longer need to run away. When you honor these moments, you're not just pulling your energy back from the outside world, you're initiating deep inner change. You're sending a message to your subconscious. I'm done loving from lack. I'm ready to love from wholeness. And from that space, where you no longer rely on anyone else to feel worthy, where love isn't something you chase just to be rescued, a new kind of liturgy starts to rise within you. A calm strength, a steady presence, an attraction that has nothing to do with how you look, and everything to do with who you are. Number 6, the kind of love that arrives when you truly love yourself. When you stop operating from emptiness, your energy shifts. You stop pleading for love, and start attracting it effortlessly. It doesn't cling, it draws in. It doesn't crave, it rests in stillness. This is the energy Carl Jung spoke of, the signature of a soul that has stopped projecting outward, and started coming home to its true self. You no longer search for someone to fill the emptiness, because you've created a life within you that feels whole. And from that space of inner richness, The very things you once chased begin to find their way to you. When you operate from need, you unknowingly push things away. But when you're full within, you become a quiet magnet for all that's meant for you. Carl Jung once said, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries." True wholeness begins to reveal itself when you start attracting relationships that are healthy, grounded, and real. People are drawn to you. They stay. They want to connect because they feel your inner completeness. They don't feel burdened by your emotions. There's nothing to prove. They're free to be themselves, and so are you. You begin to draw in opportunities that truly match your essence, because you're no longer performing for approval. You're simply living from your truth. You begin to move from a place of clarity, not from the fear of being abandoned. And that shift changes everything. You become more grounded, more creative, more certain in your choices. You start attracting love that's real, steady, honest, and free of manipulation. People who are clear, sincere, and emotionally stable are drawn to you, because you're no longer molding yourself just to be accepted. You attract those who don't need you to be happy. They're already whole, and they simply want to share their joy with you. This is love between two free souls. It's not to people trying to heal their pain through each other. It's to souls who've moved beyond emotional dependence. They've learned to live with depth, authenticity, and presence. And from that space, they choose one another, not out of desperation, but desire. Not to fill an emptiness, but because each has already learned to love themselves completely. In this kind of love, it's no longer a prize for being good enough. It's a natural alignment, two hearts vibrating on the same wavelength. There's no clinging, no controlling, just freedom and connection. They don't stay together out of fear of loss. They choose to stay, every day, because among countless options, they still choose each other. It's no longer necessary. It's conscious companionship. And the wonderful thing is, when you're in this state, even if someone walks out of your life, you no longer collapse, because you know love doesn't define your worth. It only reflects what you already carry within. You'll still hurt, but you won't lose yourself. And then other worthy things will come. Not on schedule. It doesn't happen according to some perfect script. It begins the moment you stop craving and start truly loving yourself. Thank you for walking this path with me. In the end, the love you've been searching for isn't found in someone else. It lives in the energy you carry, the frequency you emit, day after day. And the most beautiful truth, you can shift that energy anytime you choose to pause, go inward, and put yourself first. As Jung reminded us, but if you have nothing at all to create, then perhaps you create yourself. Because real love doesn't come from trying to earn it. It flows naturally when you've stopped trying to be loved and started becoming love itself. It begins when you stop trying to be someone you're not and finally start living as you. No chasing, no clinging, no pleading, just a quiet, steady presence rooted in truth. Because no one really falls in love, they fall into themselves, into the parts they were once too afraid